Hold your breath, okay?
a.m.
The man's face was boiling, skin bubbling, eyes streaming as he clawed at his cheeks like he could rip the fire out of them. He staggered into the street, screaming,
Make it stop!
People filmed on their phones, thinking it was some protester stunt, until he collapsed to his knees and tore open his own throat with his bare hands, blood spraying on protesters nearby and across the pavement. Behind him, more bodies dropped. Some twitched, some convulsed, and some stood back up. Not right, not normal. Their eyes were wet, fleshy, pinkish-red orbs, like they were cooked from the inside. And when they opened their mouths, it wasn't words that came out. It was something from the back of their throats, crawling out as a high, piteous sound that turned every head. The first one lunged. Teeth sank into someone's neck. Screams drowned the street. Chaos detonated in every direction. The man with teeth in his neck dropped his phone. It hit the ground, camera still on. Footsteps squelching, just as a shadow loomed over it. Blood splattering the lens.
12:03 p.m. The worker.
The worst part of my job wasn't the hours, or the pay, or even the customers. It was the boredom. 9 hours of beep, bag, smile, beep, bag, smile. I could have done it in my sleep. That's where I was, half asleep, dead-eyed, scanning cat food, when the first scream shattered the monotony. Not the usual, my coupon-expired whine. This was sharp, tearing, like someone had just been lit on fire. I didn't even look up at first. People scream all the time in this place. Fights over carts, junkies tweaking in the bathroom. Welcome to retail, Emmy, right? But then came the second scream. And the third, deeper, wet. The sound of someone losing their face, not their discount. I looked up just in time to see a man in a red hoodie leap onto another customer, pin him down on the conveyor belt, and bite into his cheek. Ripped it right off. Blood sprayed across the plexiglass sneeze guard. At first I thought, meth head, PCP, bath salts. I'd seen viral clips online, people flipping out, super strength, eating someone's face. Maybe that was happening here. I stupidly froze, my brain not catching up. And for a single second, the people in line just stood there. And for that silent moment, all we could hear was the tearing of flesh and the slurp of someone enjoying a meal. Then all hell broke loose. People bolted for the doors, carts crashing into displays, but there were more of them. The ones with cooked eyes and jerky, violent movements. They hit the crowd like a wrecking ball. A woman's skull smashed against the register 2 stalls down from me until her head folded in. Blood poured down the conveyor belt, soaking the coupons and candy bars. This wasn't drugs. This was fucked to all hell. I dropped behind the counter, heart hammering, listening to glass shatter and bodies slam into tile. Someone shrieked and then was cut off with a wet crack. Fuck this job. I crawled into aisle 12, the kitchen section. Rows of knives glittered behind plastic packaging. For once, corporate's obsession with family packs paid off. I ripped open the cardboard and came up with 2 gleaming butcher knives, one for each hand. Dual wielding, like the world's lamest video game character. Except this wasn't a game. One of them saw me, a teenager, maybe 17, blood soaking his varsity jacket. Eyes like fleshy orbs in his sockets. His mouth and chin was covered with little bloody chunks, but that didn't stop him from grinning when he rushed me. I didn't think. I swung. Knife went straight into his throat. He collapsed against me, gurgling, spraying my shirt with hot blood. My stomach lurched, but I shoved him off and pulled the blade free. No time to process it, though. The store was collapsing into total slaughterhouse. Shelves toppled. Sprinklers went off, raining down on us. Lights flickered. People tore into each other in wet, meaty bursts. I stumbled toward the emergency exit, slipping on gore. Behind me, someone shrieked high and broken, cut short with a crunch. My shoes squealed on the tile, skidding through blood like oil. I slammed into the door open into the parking lot and froze. The whole city was burning. Sirens wailed in every direction. Cars smashed into each other. Some flipped, flames like fingers reaching for the sky. A man was chasing a dog, full tilt, and behind all of it, on the horizon, were the tanks. Military. The same bastards who'd rolled into downtown for the protest last night. They were supposed to disperse the crowd. I have no idea what happened, but whatever it was, this was the beginning of something. Because I was standing in the middle of the fucking apocalypse, I ran.
7 a.m. The cop.
Coffee tasted like motor oil. Always did when it sat too long on the precinct burner. I was halfway through my second cup when dispatch called it in. Increased protest gathering downtown. All hands. I sighed. Another goddamn morning babysitting cardboard signs and angry kids with megaphones. I'd done this dance all summer. My partner Falcone grinned from behind the wheel.
Think we'll see tits again?
Jesus, Falcone.
What? Last week that chick painted "fuck capitalism" across hers. That was First Amendment art.
I snorted into my cup. If that's art, I'm Picasso. We pulled up near the barricades. Protesters already buzzing like hornets. Chanting, waving signs and flags, holding phones high. Standard stuff. Only difference this time? The military was here. Not National Guard. Full-on gear, armored vehicles, and one mean-looking truck with what looked like a dish on steroids mounted to the top. It hummed low enough to feel a buzzing in my teeth. What the fuck is that? I muttered. Falcone shrugged.
Probably Wi-Fi for the brass.
I didn't laugh. We both knew what it was supposed to be. Thing is, it looked more like a weapon, like it wasn't built to keep the peace. Our sergeant came over, sweat already soaking through his shirt.
Orders are simple. Do not engage. You hear me? Military's handling crowd control today. We're just perimeter.
Perimeter? I frowned. Then why the hell are we even here? The sergeant looked past us, eyes darting at the machine. His voice dipped.
Don't give me shit, Knox. You're here because you got bills to pay. And somebody has to write the reports.
I watched Sarge walk away, probably giving someone else this great pep talk. This didn't sit right. We stood around, pretending to be useful, while the chants grew louder. The brass barked into radios. I didn't pay it any mind. My attention was with all the fucking pigs this and you're ruining our country that. Then, Falcone hit my arm to get my attention.
Hey, they're breaking our balls about moving the crowd back.
Man, you see how many of them there are? Besides, not our problem. Sarge said we're wall candy. Then, I heard it again. Everyone's comms lit up with orders. PD were supposed to fall back and the military would hold the line. I saw my Sarge then, and he mouthed, "Stay back." Then at 9:03 a.m. exactly, the dish began to move. It emitted no sound, no flash. But the humming I noticed before turned into a deep low vibration I could feel inside my body. At first, nothing happened. I stood there looking at the crowd thinking this was a bust and now we'd have to push back hundreds, maybe thousands of people. Then the screaming started. Not the kind of screaming I'd heard at riots before. This was primal, throat-shredding. People started to claw at their skin, convulsing, falling into each other. Some dropped dead on the spot. Others stood, heads thrown back. Their entire body looked locked up as if every muscle was tensed. The military opened fire before I even knew what I was looking at. Protesters dropped in waves, bullets punching through bodies that had already lost their minds. Phones fell, streaming live until boots crushed them. Falcone swore.
Holy shit!
I couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't process.
1 p.m. The mom.
Dinner was supposed to be simple. Frozen lasagna in the oven, garlic bread on standby, my kid in his room playing Fortnite. Normal Tuesday. Then every phone in the house went off at once. Mine, his, even the tablet. That ugly government alarm sound, the one that makes your skin crawl.
Emergency alert. Shelter in place. Do not leave your home.
I frowned at the screen. Tornado warning? It's kinda early for those. Maybe this was a test.
Mom!
My son's voice shrieked from his room, high-pitched panic. I bolted from the kitchen and bulldozed through his door. He was by the window, pale, pointing across the street.
The neighbors, they're fighting.
I looked. Mr. and Mrs. Keller, retirees, sweet people, were in their yard. Except they weren't fighting. He was on top of her, slamming her head against the concrete, over and over, until her skull caved in like wet plaster. His arms looked like he dipped them in red paint. They glistened in the sunlight. My stomach flipped. Jesus Christ. Then he looked up, at us. Holy fuck, what happened to his eyes? He smiled. Get away from the window. I yanked my kid back. No time to think, no time to breathe. A second later, pounding shook our front door. I grabbed the nearest weapons I had, my stone bookend and a fireplace poker. My hands shook so bad, but I'd be damned if I dropped anything. Go to the safe! The door burst inward. It wasn't Keller. It was his wife. Half her face was missing, blood soaking her church sweater. But she moved like a rabid animal straight at us. I shoved my kid behind me. He screamed. I shouted, "Go!" But I knew I couldn't protect him from seeing this. I swung. The poker caught her across the temple with a sound like splitting firewood. She dropped. I saw myself bringing down the corner of the bookend with everything I had, smashing it in the back of her head. Her head split open like a coconut, chunks of gore spreading around her for all to see. She lay there twitching on the carpet. My heart was like a trapped thing, pounding itself out of my chest. Another figure filled the doorway. Keller, still wearing gloves made of blood, but they looked fresher somehow. Must have made a pit stop before coming here. I didn't hesitate. I ran the same time he did. I swung, but he rushed me before I could connect. We went down, both landing on our sides. His finger felt like they were trying to burrow into my skin. He came forward, mouth open, and I drove the poker straight through his eye. Felt it give, then pop. I kept pushing, all the way back into his skull. He went rigid, and everything just stopped. For a second, all I could hear was the oven timer beeping, and I crazily thought, dinner's ready. I guess that was my brain's way of keeping me sane as I stood over my neighbors' corpses. I was shaking for only a second before I snapped out of it. My kid. I slammed my front door shut in case there were more crazies and ran back to my room. He was in the closet with my Browning, just like I taught him. Can never be too careful as a single mother. I threw him his go bag. I grabbed mine, threw the rest of what I had in the safe in my duffel. I spotted his pajamas on the floor. He already had on his shoes and change of clothes we had tucked under the bed. My boy. This wasn't our first rodeo at escaping. In less than 4 minutes, we were moving. We ran, out my bedroom window, across the yard, into the car. I could feel the tremors going through my hands as I held the steering wheel. The emergency alert chimed again.
All major highways closed. No evacuation routes available.
I looked at my son, wide-eyed in the passenger seat, tears streaking his cheeks, but he wasn't making a sound. He saw me looking.
I'm okay, Mom. Where do we go?
I didn't have an answer, but I opened my mouth anyway to tell him, I'll figure it out, just as someone slammed a hand across the hood. Half of their scalp peeled away, nails dragging like metal claws. I floored it, tires squealing, and that's when it hit me. There was no safe place.
4:10 p.m. The inmate.
8 nights in a row. That's how long the noise has been bleeding through the walls. We can't make out words. It's just a buzzing of noise layered on the already noisy prison. It's always loud here. Steel doors slamming, guards barking, idiots screaming about commissary. But today was different. If I didn't know any better, I'd say there's a firefight outside. I keep hearing pops, what I think are screams, but the outside noise is easily swallowed up by the time it reaches these walls. The TVs in the day room showed weather, sports, and a half-ass local coverage of some not-so-happy people. Not a damn word about the mob outside. We didn't need CNN to tell us. Couldn't trust that bullshit anyway. We go by word of mouth, and from the windows at the far end of C Block, you could see them. Shapes holding signs, smoke drifting like mist, burning the fuck out of my eyes. The whispers on the block were simple. Someone innocent got scooped. I mean, come on, you know how many people in prison are innocent. But for some reason, this one is sticking into people's ass crack like a piece of shit toilet paper. Guess some poor bastard got caught in whatever the hell was happening out there. The free world fucked up, and now the outside wanted blood. Thing of beauty, really. The guards acted cool, but we knew they were rattled. You can tell by the extra shifts. Short tempers, less eye contact. You could smell the fear when they walked the line. Then tonight, the pressure finally cracked. I was on my bunk when the first thump hit. Not close, distant, but heavy enough to make the steel frame buzz against the concrete. Nobody paid it any mind. In here you mind your business. But then, another thump, closer. Voices simmered. Then glass shattered somewhere down the block. The guard tower floodlights flared, searching the yard. The crowd outside roared, like someone had set gasoline on their lungs. And then came the noise. Not protests, not riots. A ripping sound, like air itself was being chewed apart. All of us started getting restless now. Something was happening. We could feel it. Some panicked. Some were getting excited. I just watched, stone still, because I needed to see what was coming and how I'd play my next move. Then we saw him. A guard stumbling through the block, blood dribbling from his ears, eyes wide and unfocused. He wasn't barking orders, wasn't reaching for his baton, but he did scream. Holy fuck did he scream. It didn't even sound human. It was like someone took every sound his throat could make and played it at once. I saw his eyes. Cook. There was nothing else that could explain it. I watched as the pupils and irises melted and mixed with the white. Then they just looked like skin. Like when you peel back a blister, fleshy and pink. He tried to claw at his face, but his nails snapped, leaving wet chunks of meat dragging down his cheeks. And all at once he dropped, his body slamming against the concrete. Then everything went still. We all stood there, packed in a cage like sardines. There was nowhere to go. In that silence, we heard footsteps. It didn't take long for another guard to come into view. His face slack, sweat streaking down his neck. The other cons started muttering to each other, but I kept my eyes locked on him, and he seemed to notice me. Then, the bastard charged. "Yo, what the fuck?" Someone yelped, bunks scraping as guys closest to the bars scrambled back. The guard slammed into the bars, forehead first, and the sound, Christ, was like a mallet into rotten fruit. He jammed his head between the rails, forcing it through, flesh peeling back as his cheeks split against the steel. His jaw bent at a wrong angle, teeth snapping loose like popcorn kernels. "Back the fuck up!" I screamed. Most moved, but some were too busy watching in horror. He kept pushing, skin ripped from bone, one eye blistered pink just like the other guy, bulged and slid halfway out, hanging by a wet cord. Still, he shoved harder until the crown of his skull cracked like a coconut against the steel. A hot spray hit the front row of bunks, blood and something thicker, yellowish, stringing down like glue. The thing, didn't even scream. Just a rattling choke as he collapsed against the bars, head still wedged between them, half his face hanging inside the block with us. Someone vomited. Someone else started laughing, high-pitched, manic. And I realized, whatever the hell was happening outside, it had just walked in.
5:02 a.m. The precinct.
Sarge sat across from me, looking less like a man and more like something propped up by nicotine and spite. His skin had that sick, waxy tone, eyes red from not enough sleep. His hands rested against the stack of reports he pretended to read. Not fatigue. "You don't look so good, Sarge," I muttered. "Hey."
Shut it. Orders are orders, kid. You back the uniforms, you keep your mouth shut. Doesn't matter what it looks like out there.
He didn't even meet my eyes when he said it. Just kept staring at the yellowed papers like they'd swallow him if he blinked too long. I leaned back in the chair, metal creaking, resentment simmering in my chest. "So we just play good soldier and follow orders? Pretend the stink isn't there?" He chuckled, a sound like gravel.
This isn't about right or wrong, it's about doing what you need to do long enough to cash your pension check.
His ash broke, falling across the desk. He brushed it away harder than necessary. So he knows too. Everyone knew this wasn't protection, wasn't justice. This was politics. This was the suits pulling strings from glass towers, and us being their disposable puppets. And the bastard across from me knew it.
6:15 a.m. The briefing.
We packed into the room, fluorescent lights buzzing like flies. Rows of us jammed shoulder to shoulder, uniforms creaking, the room hotter than hell because the vent hasn't worked since the 90s. Sweat, gun oil, and cheap deodorant were thick enough to taste. Then the parade walks in. Government suits, slicked hair and shoes polished enough to blind. They reeked of the type of arrogance that came from never leaving their desk. One of them steps up, voice smooth, rehearsed.
"These gatherings are unlawful. These people are not civilians. They are agitators. They've chosen to break the law, and they will face consequences."
A hand goes up.
Sir, with respect, citizens have the right to assemble. First Amendment. Peaceful protest isn't unlawful.
The suit doesn't even look at her.
They surrendered that, right when they chose this. Blocking streets, refusing dispersal, jeopardizing safety. Rights come with responsibility. What they're doing is mob behavior, not protest.
Murmurs ripple across the room. The cop who spoke clenches her jaw. His hands don't move when he talks. Creepy, like a ventriloquist's dummy. They dim the lights and fire up the screen. A crowd control demo reel, grainy footage of safe dispersals. Sound cannons, tear gas plumes curling like smoke bombs at a football game. Rubber bullets bouncing like tennis balls. The suit clicks the remote.
These are effective to a degree, but not enough. The powers that be want more. They need to show a significant dispersal, so citizens can see that our streets are safe. They don't want more headlines about unrest. They want retreat.
The video cuts to camcorder footage. Not military this time. Some nameless third world street, heat-warped and crowded. People flow like a river shoulder to shoulder, but when they near a certain run-down safe house, they bend, crossing the street, skirting the sidewalk. A perfect bubble around the property, an invisible no man's land. No one looks up, no one questions it. It's not fear you see in their eyes. It's absence, like the thought to step closer just never forms. The suit doesn't flinch.
This was a prototype, a non-lethal brain burn deterrent. Sounds crude, but what it does is scatter people with what feels like unbearable heat and disorientation. Basically, we make them really, really uncomfortable. The aftermath may look like headaches, nausea, temporary disorientation.
He presses the clicker, and the screen goes black.
With advancement in technology, we've taken this model and upgraded it. We keep the non-lethal part, but we amplify the effectiveness. Faster onset, no permanent marks, no lasting damage. They'll want to stay home after this and not march again. Trust us, gentlemen, we're not here to hurt anyone. This technology has been used for years, with each iteration making this option not only safer to use, but effective.
The room stays silent.
9:13 a.m. The cop.
Adrenaline hammered through me as heat sliced the already warm morning. Falcone was beside me, hand on his holster, eyes darting across the street. Smoke and dust choked everything, punctuated by screams and the sharp crack of something that didn't belong to a gun. We spotted a woman, covered in blood, who was convulsing on the ground. Falcone ran before I could tell him to stay behind the line. I watched him jump the barrier and take 2 strides, then he went down. Not a stumble, not a bullet. Blood sprayed from his nose and ears like a busted fire hydrant. I dove, staying low and out of range from the so-called non-lethal deterrent. My stomach twisted as I dragged him behind a concrete barrier. I just cleared the barrier when he convulsed violently. His eyes, oh God, bulged, veins bursting and melting with the whites. I watched as tiny fingers of smoke came from the now fleshy bulbs. Foam bubbled at his lips. Every muscle in his body jerked like he was being pulled apart from the inside. And then, nothing. He was eerily still. I froze, heart slamming in my chest. The crowd wasn't dispersing. Soldiers weren't corralling anymore. They were shooting. Into civilians, into mothers, into fathers, into anyone who moved. Something shifted, and I didn't know what, but the violence was everywhere. I slammed my radio. "Medic! Anyone! God damn it!" The cacophony of noise was so loud, even if I got a response, I didn't hear it. It didn't matter, though. Falcone was moving, but relief didn't come. Something was wrong with him. I startled as Sarge dropped to his knees beside me, hands already in motion, snapping open a med kit with muscle memory. His face was ash gray, jaw tight, eyes refusing to meet mine.
Hold him steady, we're not losing another one.
Falcone's body jerked under us. His mouth snapped open, pink foam spilling. A sound tore from his throat, not anything I'd ever heard. A wet, grinding growl, like broken glass shoved through a drain. Sarge pressed gauze to Falcone's face, but it soaked through instantly with froth and blood.
Stay with me, you hear me? That's an order.
Falcone's hand shot up, clamping around Sarge's wrist with bone-snapping strength. Sarge screamed, twisting, but Falcone rolled on him fast, his face a mask of ruptured veins and milky red eyes. He bit down. The crunch of teeth into flesh was louder than the gunfire. "No!" I roared, lunging, trying to pull him off. Blood poured from Sarge's arm, his other hand clawing for his sidearm. His mouth worked around the pain, his last order forced out through clenched teeth.
"Do it, kid, do it!"
Falcone's head snapped up, his face slick with blood. He came at me fast. My sidearm was already in my hand. No time to think, no time to breathe. I pulled the trigger. Once, twice, 3 times. His head snapped back, chunks of red and smoke spraying the barrier behind him. Falcone collapsed in a twitching heap, his body jerking once before falling still for good. Silence punched me in the gut. Only the chaos beyond the barrier reminded me the world hadn't stopped. Sarge slumped, his arm shredded, his face gray. His eyes locked on mine. No anger, no blame, just tired acceptance. His voice was low, almost drowned by the gunfire.
"Run."
I didn't argue. My legs were already moving. I vaulted the barrier on the opposite side of the crowd, behind our line, and ran toward the building, leaving the smoke and screams, not once looking back. Couldn't. If I did, I'd break.
9:03 a.m. Ground Zero.
The first city cracked wide open. Downtown, smoldering rubble, christened as Ground Zero of the American apocalypse. Moments after the brain-burn deterrent was activated, law enforcement waited for the non-lethal heat and disorientation. Instead, It fried neural pathways in a percentage of the crowd. The amygdala and hypothalamus jammed wide open, locking them in permanent attack mode. Mirror neurons, the things that let us feel for each other, turned into funhouse glass, showing every living face as prey. And worse, the pain and pleasure centers fuse. Every scream, every tear of flesh, it hits them like a drug. Violence becomes survival, becomes need. They don't just lash out at random either. The scramble makes them hunt warmth and motion, like a moth to flame. Living bodies draw them. They cut, tear, chew, not because they're starving, but because their brains light up like Christmas every time they do. But the mauling doesn't always end a life. Saliva and blood. It carries fragments of that scrambled signal, folded into prion-like proteins. They slip into the victim's bloodstream, spread through the nerves, and start rewriting. It's not viral, not airborne, it's worse. It's the weapon itself, echoing in flesh, forcing the new host's brain to play the same broken song. One keystroke. That's all it took. Every precinct, every checkpoint, every so-called backup unit, orders synced. Civilian protesters weren't citizens anymore. They were targets. Crowd control was now a thing of the past. Streets heaved under fire, mothers and children curled in doorways, screams severed mid-breath, like something unseen reached down their throats and tore the sound away. Whole blocks ignite with violence. Phones capture everything. The military tries to contain it, but containment fails immediately. And just like that, America finally turned the guns inward. Power and law blurred to slaughter. And nobody, not cops, not suits, not the poor bastards on the streets, could stop it.
And there you have it. Day 1 and ground zero of the end. I thought it'd be fun to write this story from entirely different points of view. And now that it's ended, I was wondering if I should make a continuation. Same characters and their own views during their first night of surviving. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to hear what happens next. Well, until next time.